You're listening to the More Than the Music podcast, episode 2, featuring Joel and Luke from For King and Country.
I walked through a difficult journey with health, and I have for the last 3 years. I still have this disease. But I walked through a time when I actually had to come off the road for about 2.5 months and really went through a dark period where I wasn't really sure what my future was. Wasn't sure if I was ever going to be able to get out on the road again. When you face that, it fundamentally changes you. And we've all heard those stories. We've heard those stories in church. I got in a car wreck or whatever. But when you walk through it yourself, the questions that I had to ask myself were, where does my help come from?
You're about to hear how Joel and Luke from For King and Country lost everything when they first moved to America, how Luke overcame a disease that almost forced him to leave the band, and how the songs on their album Run Wild, Live Free, Love Strong, the Deluxe Anniversary Edition remind them to never give up and to keep fighting. I'm Justin Paul along with Joel and Luke from For King and Country, and we're going to talk about a lot more than just the music.
More Than the Music is hosted by Justin Paul, a touring musician turned national radio personality who loves the dramatic, humorous, sometimes tragic, and often inspiring story behind the songs from your favorite artists. You can connect with the show at wayfm.com/Justin. Now here's your host, Justin Paul.
Joel and Luke from For King and Country. How's it going, guys?
G'day.
Hey.
Here we are.
Here we are.
We made it happen, Justin.
It's here. 17 songs on this Deluxe Anniversary Edition of Run Wild, Live Free, Love Strong. Did I get that right?
You did.
Hey.
You even got the order right.
How about that? I'm sure people mess
it's
that up all the
all
time.
variations of it. We've even got other, just combinations of things that don't make, run free, live wild,
Things
run
that
strong.
aren't even on the album. Yeah. Let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
How did For King and Country get where we are right now here today?
Oh, wow. Well, Luke and I often say that music chose us more than we chose music in a lot of ways. Reason being is dating back all the way to Australia, where we're originally from. Our dad was a concert promoter. And so some of my first memories, Justin, were looking at like vinyl records and blaring them over the speakers and sitting Indian style, just studying these covers. I loved it. And bands and families were always coming through the house. And so I remember, as a 4 or 5-year-old plugging my ears at a Striper rock concert and the whole nine. We did it, and it was a family affair. And so I really fell in love with music at a young age. Dad lost $250,000 promoting a tour that didn't go very well in Australia. Had to sell the house. Ultimately led to him coming to my mother saying, I've felt a calling to the United States to sort of start a new life over there with you. What do you think? And she said, you lead, I'll follow. So 6 kids, 16 suitcases, sold what little we had left, had been off on a job, moved over, straight to Nashville, Tennessee. Month after we got here, hadn't even really found our footing yet. He lost his job.
All the way from Australia to here.
All the way from
Job
Australia.
gone.
6 kids under the age of 14, 1 on the way, and we get here a month later, loses his job, not enough money to go back to Australia, no furniture in this house we were renting, no car. I mean, the 9. And grandparents, his parents, her parents calling saying, hey, crying, come home, but they just knew they needed to stay. And so I remember, I was a boy at the time, I remember very vividly as a family, we would sit in our furnitureless living room and we would just very sort of unreligiously pray for everything. If we prayed for a car, we prayed for our little sister, money for our little sister to be born in a hospital, we prayed for money to cover the expenses, and saw really miraculous intervention. The first Thanksgiving we were here, we don't have Thanksgiving in Australia.
Okay.
You guys have pilgrims, we have prisoners, right? Australia's found on a British colony of convicts. So we don't have Thanksgiving. We showed up at this family's house. They just opened their doors, and we never met them before. And at the end of the night, they'd sort of found out our plight. And at the end of the night, the father of the house came and said, hey, I believe God wants me to give you the keys to a brand new minivan.
What?
We had a church just show up, dropped off a truckload of furniture, just said, hey, we heard you didn't have any furniture. Someone anonymously paid for our little sister to be born in the hospital because we didn't have anyway. And we really rallied together as a family too, raked leaves, mowed lawns, you name it, cleaned houses. Our eldest sister, Rebecca, who would clean houses with mum and babysit, and all the money would go back into the family fund, she had sung in Australia. a lot. And Dad, after he'd lost everything, thought, well, why don't we, she was 15, 16 at the time, said, we'll take her to different record labels in Nashville. Everyone turned her down except one label. Forefront Records said, okay, we'll sign her. And so our last name's Smallbone, but they wanted to give her the stage name Rebecca St. John. And our grandfather had just passed away at the time, and his name was James. So well, what about we call her Rebecca St. James? And we all started traveling together as a family. Dad needed cheap labor, 5 sons. So like he put us all to work as
Everybody's
a road crew.
working.
Yeah, oh yeah. Stage managing, background vocals, lighting, the whole nine. We did it. And it was really in those formative years that it bonded us as a family of faith, and also bonded us to music. And I go back all the way to that to say, really, without that instructive time, for King & Country wouldn't exist. And without Rebecca and her music, for King & Country wouldn't exist. And now, interestingly enough, almost 2 decades on from that time frame, we're still all working together. Our dad manages us. Our eldest brother, Daniel, does all our lighting design. Ben, our older brother, does video work for us. We just worked on a film together. He directed it. Luke and I are in the band. Our younger brother, Josh, is the general manager. So it's all like, it's still
there,
all,
yeah?
it's very incestuous, but it's all in the family. And it's been a very rich, not easy, but very rich journey.
You can definitely hear in the music, in For King & Country songs, that there was a grind, there's a story there other than just the song itself. There's a journey, there's a process through them all.
No doubt. Music is a journey. Life is a journey. I'm a destination guy. I want to arrive. Give me, point me in the direction and I'll go for it. But I want to get to the destination. And the older I've gotten, the more I've realized is just, hey, embrace the journey.
Yeah.
Embrace the ups and downs. And in music, I hope with particularly with Run Wild, Live Free, Love Strong, that when you listen to it, and as we listen to it now, that you enjoy the threads and the themes, because there's a lot of heartache in it. And there's a lot of wonderful joy that we experienced during this time. Luke was incredibly ill in the middle of it, and that was difficult. I'd got married in the middle of it. And so you have these sort of juxtaposed positions that we were writing from. And I think it's made the process doubly special to present this album to the world.
Run wild, live free, love strong, you and me. Run wild, live free, love strong. To every soul locked in a cage, in the prison of your past mistakes. No, there's no time left to waste. Yeah, you can make your great escape. We're made to run wild, run wild, run wild. We're made to.
Well, you get here, you get to the United States, and I just read this survey recently, and I wanted to get your take on it. It was a survey asked people from different countries what the weirdest things are about America. Number one on the list was kind of shocking. It was that there are a ton of squirrels. Was that something you noticed at first? I mean, I know you were just a little boy when you came to America, but that's such a weird thing to be number one on a list of weirdest things about America.
No, that wasn't the weirdest thing. I mean, look, Australia has no snow.
Okay.
So I'd never seen snow. So I remember one of the first winters we had here. It sort of snows dismally in Nashville, Tennessee. When it snows, it sticks around for about 2 hours.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it didn't change the fact that we just were blown away by this white,
what is this stuff
beautiful
falling from the sky?
wonderland that just covered the ground.
Yeah.
And I remember because again, we didn't have much money, I took 2 fence posts. And I carved out, I took the plastic pots, the circular, and I carved out a rectangular piece of the pots, and I would nail them to the front of the fence posts as sort of the upward angle so that the post wouldn't dig into the ground, and then I would nail like an old pair of shoes and those were my skis, and I thought I was an Olympian, So snow was weird. The other thing is Nashville. The accent was very odd.
Okay.
There's a lot of miscommunication.
Now, people would say your accent is odd.
Yes, they would.
But that's what you consider when you hear people in Nashville speak. Okay.
Right. Yeah, well, it's very, and Southern hospitality too, that was always a strange one. You know, because people would say, in Australia, it's open door policy, like, mate, come on by. But in America, like, everyone's so awfully nice, and they'd be like, you know, come by. And then we'd be like, all right, next Thursday? And they'd be like, it was like, that was just polite. I was like, oh, okay.
So people in Australia are even more Southern than Southern people in America.
Oh, yes. No, we are the true Southerners.
Okay. Now, another thing on this survey was the size of our soda in America.
The size of everything.
Yeah.
The size of your cars. The size of your houses.
List. Yeah.
The size of those big gulps from 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
They're
not
astonishing.
in Australia?
No, they're the size of meals. This is the general size of meals over here, you know? I always, like, my mum, when I was a boy, she would serve dinner, and if I didn't eat dinner, she'd put it in the refrigerator, and it would become my breakfast. And if I didn't eat it at breakfast, it would become my lunch. And so I have this innate thing built in me now as an adult. It's surprising I don't weigh a lot more than I do, because thank God for a fast metabolism, because I have to finish my food.
So you probably get this a lot being from Australia, because I know people who are different countries, I automatically think, oh, well, you must be great friends with Hillsong, or you must be great friends with Steve Irwin's family. You got to be, right? From Australia. What's the worst who do you know you've ever gotten? Because you're talking about a whole continent here in Australia. Like,
you're right. You're right. There's 22 million people in Australia. Well, it's funny you mentioned all three of the two of them. I have loose connections with both of them.
Okay, so actually do know them.
We went to Hillsong before it was Hillsong. My dad was actually in the very initial stages involved in their music program when it was just getting off the ground. And then Steve Irwin, I met his wife and daughter not long after he'd passed. We went by to their zoo and got to say hello briefly. I get the Keith Urban thing a lot, you know.
Oh, yeah?
The Nicole Kidman.
You must be best friends because you're from Australia.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Well, we're both in music, you know.
Yeah.
Now, again, but there's a very loose connection there. 3 years ago, we did the Jay Leno show, and they had the American Idol judges on the show, and Keith was one of them.
So you actually do know him.
I do know Keith, after all.
You know everyone who's famous from Australia.
But I can't say I know him. We had one conversation that night, and actually our publicist represents Keith as well. So I think you can. But some of the others, like Hugh Jackman, I do not know Hugh Jackman. I do not know Russell Crowe. I do not know Nicole Kidman.
But people probably assume that you do.
Yes.
Just because
not only that
Australia.
we do, but that we're best mates.
Oh, that you're...
Like, we actually flew over together. And like...
You sailed across together, both of you.
That's not true, guys. Sorry.
Did you think that coming here that you met someone and you're like, oh, you must know
absolutely
a famous American?
Well, it's even more preposterous when you get to America because there's 350 million people in America. But every Australian, like, yeah, I know your buddy. He lives in California. Where are you from? I'm from New York. You probably know him, right?
You guys must be friends, man. You're Americans.
No. Doesn't work.
Fix My Eyes has been such a big song for you guys. Yeah. And I can't believe you haven't sold this song to an optometrist or something. Like, this should be their song, right?
We actually tried.
Oh, you did?
We sort of tried. No, we didn't.
My joke's not as funny anymore.
Tom's, the shoe company, I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they do like a buy a pair, give one away to a poor, needy person overseas. And they launched, a few years ago, a glasses campaign. And so we made a big push to, hey, Tom's, let us be your voice piece for the glasses. I don't think it really eventuated. I think we got a few. But no, Fix My Eyes. Look, Fix My Eyes is probably the benchmark song-wise of the band, actually, I'd say, to date. It came from this wonderful moment where we just done a Christmas tour, and it was a disaster, the Christmas tour, and it was a blast because we didn't have a Christmas album. We'd never played any Christmas songs. We just started as a band, and we had 2 days to rehearse.
This wasn't the tour your dad lost all that money on, was it, right?
No. This is for King and Country now. Okay. Now we're in for King and Country taste. And we came up with this drum intro for one of the Christmas songs, and for a song called Little Drummer Boy. And I just loved it. And we needed a song that kind of represented us, that kicked off the show, because we didn't have that on our first record, Crave. So we went into the studio that next year. This is beginning of 2013. Even end of 2012. It was a precarious moment because Luke had just been diagnosed with this digestive disorder. He was losing weight. I was walking through some relational moments with my now wife. We were just starting a date at the time and trying to figure out how to be distanced from each other and how to be artists and all the rest of it. And then we had this sort of serendipitous moment on this Christmas tour, and we kind of took it all, and it was very honest, right? We kind of looked at each other and said, hey, what are we want to be known by? Like, we just wrote this first record, and it's been received really in a lovely way, but are we adding to the noise? Why? What's this? The sacrifice, being away from family and the complication. Why? And we kind of came up with a list of things we wanted to be known by, to love like we're not scared, to give when it's not fair, live life for another, take time for a brother. And again, in sort of a serendipitous way, it became a chorus that became the chorus to Fix My Eyes. And Luke actually wrote the verses in the shower. Believe it. I was not there to verify. But he wrote the
close
verses.
Family, not that close.
Not that close. Wrote the verses in the shower, and we actually played it live for about a year and a half before we ever even recorded it. So all these audiences around the country had known about it, but we never put it on tape. So it's if you ask me, give me one song, I sum up for King Country in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. I'd say Fix My Eyes.
And live like I'm not scared. Give when it's not fair. Live life for another. Take time for a brother. Fight for the weak ones. Speak out for freedom. Find faith in the battle. Stand tall but above it all. Fix my eyes on you.
It does sound like, however, from looking at Instagram and Facebook, though, that you might be the one in the band that needs to fix his eyes because your wife slammed a trunk door on your head
yes, she
6
did.
staples later, and then literally just a few nights ago, you fell off a stage
I fell off.
at Winter Jam. What's wrong with your eyes,
Very
Joel?
convincingly fell off the stage. Like I didn't halfway.
Are you injury prone, man? What's going on?
Okay, so I'll start with the stitches. I was
Staples?
Yes, staples. In fact, I didn't want to do the staples. We were out on a triple date with some of our neighbors in Nashville, Tennessee. Right after Christmas, we had some Christmas gifts for them. I don't endorse this, but we were traveling a very short distance, so I was the sixth person. I sat in the back of an SUV. So she came to let me out. Mm-hmm. She opened the hatch, and I got out, and I was going to turn around to grab the gifts because they were in the back with me. And as I turn around in one motion, I turn around, she closes it. And my wife does not close things subtly. She slams them. Always. Doors.
All wives do that, I think.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
She closed it, and it was so solid. And I put my hands on the back of the truck, and I just said, I was trying to get the Christmas gift, sweetie. And then I realized that your head bleeds profusely.
Yep, a lot of blood vessels in your head. Yeah.
So I was sort of running into Starbucks, balancing my head dependent on which way the blood was sort of trailing off it to try and keep it from making a gruesome display. But the Starbucks people must have thought it was hilarious because we didn't even get a drink. All they saw was me rush in and grab a couple serviettes or napkins, as you call them, stuff them on my head, and then 4 of us ran into the toilet or into the bathroom and stayed in there for 5 minutes and then ran straight back out and left. And so everyone at Starbucks thought we were a bit nuts. But yeah, so 6 staples later.
I actually know that feeling because Starbucks seems to be our bathroom spot. My wife and I, when we're traveling, it's like we might even order coffee. We just stop to go to the bathroom.
They do have nice bathrooms.
Yeah, they're pretty clean all the time. Yeah, way to go, Starbucks. And then you're falling off a stage. Like, what's going on? You're tossing a hat? Is that?
It was a small stage. No one. The biggest disappointing thing about it was nobody noticed. Because everyone followed the hat. So there's this moment in the show. I actually posted on our social, so jump on and look at our Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. But there's a moment in the show where I take the hat off the guitarist and I just throw it just with all my might into the audience. And we're on a little B stage on Winter Jam where we've been performing it. And I usually get close to the corner of the stage. In this case, my foot met air instead of the stage. So I just clean straight off. Didn't even realize what had happened until I was on the floor. Didn't hurt myself. I think there was a sort of a larger fellow that caught me on my way down. So I'm thankful. Thank you if you're listening.
Yeah.
To this for catching.
Well, see, I guess it might have been working security that night. He just happened to be. No?
I did frighten the security guys though.
So you actually fell on someone in attendance enjoying the show?
Yes, I did.
Oh.
And I guess they weren't hurt. Well, they didn't say anything.
Maybe.
I thanked them.
Get a free shirt after the show, maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
Sorry about that. Here you go.
No, I might need to get my eyes checked.
Yeah, you may want to do that.
Fix my eyes.
Man, you are so busy. Like, I'm looking at your tour schedule, and then you got a movie coming out. This new single, Priceless, it's going to be probably your next one here pretty soon.
Yes.
The Priceless movement is so amazing, and it's got you so busy right now. Tell me about what's going on with this song.
Well, I have to pause for a moment, Justin, and I just have to shake your hand. We're shaking hands.
Yes.
Thank you for doing your research. It's funny, you sit down a lot of these things, and people just like, tell me about yourself.
I might have stayed up till 2 a.m. doing
That's
everything.
all right. I'm the last man. Sorry about that, Amanda, for him staying up late. But I appreciate it very much. Priceless is very near and dear to our hearts as a movement. And if any of you have joined us or heard us speak that are listening, you will know that one of the things that we champion is talking about celebrating a woman's worth and talking about men being chivalrous in how they love. And it's kind of wrapped up in the entity of the Priceless movement. And it's something that's really come with us from the beginning of the band. For the last 4 years, we have spoken about it every opportunity we can. We have these necklaces. They have a framed Australian 1 cent coin on them, sort of stand as a nod to our homeland, but they stand as a reminder that a woman's worth more than all the money in the world. We have these bracelets as well that say respect and honor on them, and we've made them available for the last 4 years and have seen literally 250,000 Americans grab one of these and are sort of carrying this message around the country. And so I was so inspired by it and the stories, and that last year it was kind of a flood of inspiration. We wrote a song about it, which we were always daunted to write a song about the movement because it was such a precarious. We didn't want it to feel forced, and also wanted it to feel sort of strong and bold, but yet still sensitive. And we wrote this song, Priceless, that just came to us in a very special way. And then for the last 2 years, we've been working on a film, sort of a dramatic story of love that's based on true stories that our brother Ben directed, and I'm acting in it, and Luke is actually helping produce it. And it's not been easy, but it's been wonderful. And this is 2016. In a lot of ways, is the year of Priceless. It will be our next single, and we just want to take this message to the world. It is busy, but it's funny and you guys know this as well. Your 2 a.m. morning, even studying this, when there's purpose behind it, and when there's heart behind it, and when you see impact, it makes it all very worth it.
I see you dressed in white, ever you want me to ride. I see you rose in blue at the sight of you. So priceless, irreplaceable, unmistakable, incomparable, darling, it's beautiful. I see it all in you. So priceless,
Luke, so particularly, what song for you have you heard the most or biggest response or most unique response? That's a For King and Country song.
Well, we were very privileged to be able to play The Tonight Show with Jay Leno many years ago. And ironically enough, we got some flack for that. We got some emails from people saying, why would you go play Jay Leno? And not that many, but we did get some. And at that time, I was the one who was in charge of replying to all these people. And so there was one lady who really was very, very upset about it. And so and anytime you hear those things, it's not the easiest pill to swallow. And so then I kind of read another few emails down, and this guy writes me an email and says, hey, I just want you to know that I got to watch your performance on television, and I was reminded of the fact that I might not have an earthly father who loves me, but I know that I do have a heavenly Father that does. And because I heard that song, you guys saved my life tonight, because I was going to do something that I would very much regret. Wow. And so I was actually able to gently go back to this lady and say, this is the reason why we do what we do. This is the reason why we try and get into some avenues that maybe not, that aren't always that normal, because we firmly believe in the power of music and what that can do in somebody's life. Yeah,
and that's got to be a humbling experience, knowing that God is using you as that vessel to minister to people in that way.
Oh, man, of course. Look, before I got into music, I wanted to play sports, and I was kind of like a flawed, not very good sports player who loved it a lot, maybe a little bit too much.
Probably like me and my church softball that I played.
Yeah, there you go. I've played church softball, slow pitch softball.
Yeah.
It's so much fun, though, right?
I had aspirations to be in the major leagues, my friend, and here I am playing slow pitch softball. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
No, but I tore my ACL my junior year of high school, and I was kind of presented with this new thought of what would it be like if I threw that dream away. And at that time, Joel kind of came to me and said, hey, what do you think about writing some songs together? And I think it was during that I went on this journey of realizing how powerful music was to my life. And it is humbling when you can be a part of writing a song in a very, very small room. And you don't have the crowds, you don't have the people, you're not in the car with them when they listen to these songs, and then you hear hundreds and thousands of stories about how a song that you just thought one day, hey, I've got this idea.
Yeah.
And those ideas come from someplace. And that's the humbling part, is that we get to be a part of a bigger story.
Yeah. And take me there with Shoulders as you're creating, as you're writing, as you're performing this song, because so many people have already been touched by this song.
Yeah. I walked through a difficult journey with health, and I have for the last 3 years. I still have this disease. Technically, I'm doing very, very well, and for the most part, live a very normal life. But I walked through a time where I actually had to come off the road for about 2.5 months, and really went through a dark period where I wasn't really sure what my future was. Wasn't sure if I was ever going to be able to get out on the road again. Joel was out there doing shows by himself with the band guys, and it was a very emotional. I'm pretty sure my chemicals in my brain were not quite right because I was crying at the top of the hat, like of all these different things. I was a mess. And
Sounds like what I'm like when I have a cold.
I wasn't going to say that.
My wife says I act like a 4-year-old when I have a cold.
We aren't all males like that.
Totally
Yeah,
different spectrum
exactly.
of
I
illness
get it.
here,
Hey, that might just be the sickest you've ever been.
Yeah,
You know
exactly.
what I'm saying? But I knew that I had to write that song about that experience, because when you face, and I wasn't necessarily on my deathbed, but there were some concerns what was going to happen. And when you face that, it fundamentally changes you. And we've all heard those stories.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard those stories in church. I got in a car wreck or whatever. But when you walk through it yourself, the questions that I had to ask myself were, where does my help come from? Because I was still here.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like I was paralyzed in a hospital and unable to do many things. I was still here. I was just very, very sick. And so we got to writing the album. It was one of the last songs that we wrote in the album. It was just me and another producer. And I said, I just can't get this phrase out of my head. My help comes from you. You're right here pulling me through all of my weakness, my sickness, my brokenness. And that was the foundation of what this song is, that is called Shoulders, that is probably, for me, one of the most proud songs I've ever written, just because it's my raw spiritual journey walking through a dark time in my life.
My help comes from you. You're right here pulling me through. You carry my weakness, my sickness, my brokenness, all on your shoulders. Your shoulders. My help comes from you. You are my rest, my rescue. I don't have to see to believe that you're lifting me up on your shoulders. My help is
Another song right in that journey too, Without You, that's
Yeah.
got your wife on it with
Yeah.
you. I mean, that had to be an amazing thing to be able to create this with your spouse, but
Yeah.
but it's coming from a very difficult, tough time in your life.
Yeah, so I always kind of refer to Without You and Shoulders as those were the two songs that really came out of this sickness. But Shoulders was the spiritual perspective, and Without You is the human perspective, the side of my wife, and I will never forget this. And I was 26 years old at the time, never thinking that I'd have this conversation. But she came to me and she said, you just can't leave me here. You got to fight through this. Like she was very worried for my health, and you don't expect to hear that until you're 70 or 80. That's what we feel like we deserve,
Yeah.
right? And yet here I was, my wife telling me, don't leave. You got to hang in here. And so we went to L.A. and it was another guy that we were riding with, and Joel, and we kind of got to that thought of, I was telling that story, and he said, you have to write that song. You have to write a song about what it feels like from the human side of things, what it feels like to maybe have to say goodbye to your wife, maybe have to say goodbye to your oldest son. And at that time, I had never really grasped that thought. And so we wrote the song, and it was great, and we were really, really proud of it. And I walk out to get to do a phone call, which Joel and I exchange and go back and forth a lot. And I walk back in, and they said, hey, we've got this crazy idea. And I was like, okay, what is it? And they said, what about Courtney, your wife? sings the chorus of this song. And dude, at that time, I was a mess. I was like, it's absolutely perfect. I can't imagine. And so the ending to this story is, as I go home, I tell my wife, or I ask her, I said, hey, you want to do this? And she's like, yeah, I don't know how this is going to go, but I'll do it. And we recorded the vocals to that song in the same room that she came to me. And she said, you just can't leave me here. And that was and it was just us. There was nobody else in the room. We'd put the kids to bed, and it was my wife and I, and we sung this song for about 3 hours together. And that was a real healing moment, I think, for both of us.
I don't want to live without you. I'm not ready to live without you. And so let's dance a little, laugh a little, and hope a little more. 'Cause I don't want to leave without you, without you.
It's evident, too, the love you have for your family. This Is Love is a particular song that is written and sung directly to your spouse. Tell me about that and the decision to put that on a Christian record, because I know some people might go, wait a minute, you're not singing about God? What are you doing, guys? Come on.
You know, it's funny. We've had 2 records now that have been the pendulum swung both ways, if you want to look at it like that. Some songs have been very spiritual, and other songs have just been very sort of horizontal about a friend who struggled with depression, or about celebrating our wives. Or the first record, I was walking through some relational hardships, and there's a couple of breakup songs on there, and we've not, which I really think is lovely. We've not really got this. How dare you?
Yeah.
And This Is Love is no exception to that rule. No, we've had people say that's one of my favorites, and that I really feel that. I think for us that was an extension of the arm of this Priceless message too. Was redefining in a day and age where it is such a sensualized environment. And I don't just mean that in a sexual way. I mean that in our senses completely, from how readily accessible we have food to how we can watch basically anything, anytime, laying in bed, on a plane, you name it. How, when in the history of the world have we been bombarded with billboards and advertisements and all the rest of it? It's the same thing in relationships. And we always lean towards, naturally, because we're emotional creatures, we always lean towards the feeling. And what I've found in modern society so often, this idea of commitment and standards and longevity and fighting for your relationship and pushing through has been somehow lost. And so This Is Love, as was Priceless, was an attempt to say, let me turn the dial a little bit on what you and I think love is, or what we have been bombarded with day in and day out with pop culture of what love is. Love is not sex. Sex is absolutely a wonderful part of love. But love is so much greater. Love is sacrifice. Love is, and so that's why, This Is Love that I'm feeling. It was so much. Hopefully when you leave that song, you go, this is not just about a moment in time. This is about a commitment.
Yeah. I personally love that these type of songs are being sung by Christian artists, because it's real. It's what we go through. It's our life. We have a faith perspective, but this is what we deal with every single day, just like everyone else.
Yeah.
I think our faith shapes
humanity,
those songs. Yeah,
isn't it?
Absolutely. But I love that this is on the record. I did want to do something really fun though, because that is a powerful love song. But I've got a couple of phrases here from some not so powerful love songs, some cheesy love songs.
Okay.
And because
this was your 2 a.m. research, right?
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Right.
Yeah, and I found myself going, wow, people actually thought these were great songs. Anything with your accent is going to make it sound even better.
Yes.
So
I'm glad that you think that.
So you can pick one of the highlighted phrases here, and just read that as compelling as if you were looking at Mariah right now. How would you read that song lyric to her? And do you even recognize any of those song lyrics?
I'll read the third one.
Okay. Do you recognize that one before you start reading it?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, this is even better. Great.
I'll never break your heart. I'll never make you cry. I'd rather die than live without you. I'll give you all of me, honey. That's no lie.
That was beautiful. Man.
Can I read one more?
You're welcome to.
I'm
yes.
really feeling
Do you know?
this.
By the way, that's a Backstreet Boys song.
How does it go? I'll never break. Something like that. Yeah.
Do you know the Backstreet Boys?
Oh, I do know the Backstreet Boys. I was a Backstreet Boys advocate.
I'll never break
your heart. I'll never make you cry.
Yeah, you got it. You
I'd
should sing
rather
that.
die. You and me, closet Backstreet Boys
Hey,
fans.
not me, but yeah, sure. Try.
Do you want
try
another one?
more. Yeah,
We don't
try-
have- we
try
don't
one.
have to.
No, I think it's great because
Which one? You picked this one. I picked the last one.
the top one.
Okay. I love you. You love me. And we're a happy family. With, with a great big hug and a kiss from me to you. Won't you say you love me too? I do recognize that one,
Yes?
I think. Yes.
Those are the inspiring lyrics of a great television show we have here in America called Barney.
Yes.
I don't
Which
know.
he always frightened me as a little boy. Barney.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a bit creepy.
Yeah? Not.
I don't know.
It's supposed to be an educational show. If you can get past the creepiness of the dinosaur
Yeah.
singing "I love you, you love me."
We're a happy family.
I'm not related to a dinosaur.
With a
thank you.
great big hug
And a kiss from me to you. Won't you say you love me too? All right, Luke, your turn.
I used to think that I could not go on, and life was nothing but an awful song. But now I know the meaning of true love. I'm leaning on your everlasting arms.
Man, so powerful. Do you know what song that's from?
actually don't know what that was. I know the other ones.
That was a song in the movie Space Jam with Bugs Bunny and Michael Jordan.
Okay, hey, you know what?
It's I Believe I Can Fly.
But is it I believe I can fly? But that's a great song. That's a good song.
But the first verse, it's kind of cheesy.
The first foot. Here's what I will say. If you pull apart many good songs. So the other day, Joel and I were doing these experiments on like people that we really respect, and we're like, let's look at these lyrics. These guys aren't as brilliant as I thought that they were. You know what I mean? I'm giving them way too much credit.
You got me thinking. This is love, this is love, this is love that I'm feeling. This is love, this is love, this is love, I believe it. I kiss you only, darling, I promise to hold you gently and still be the strongest. I'm yours completely, no matter what comes our way. I love you till the end of my days, till the end of my days.
One of the songs that's so huge right now, It's Not Over Yet.
Yeah.
And I don't know where you wrote this from, but let me share with you kind of what this song means to me here for a second, if you
love
can.
that, yeah.
So my wife and I have been praying for somebody for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And it just never it never felt like our prayers were answered
Yeah.
until recently. Now we're talking years of prayer,
Yeah.
years of, God, why is this person doing this? Why are they keep continuously going
Yeah.
down these paths? And now we're starting to see God at work in their life. And this song was just kind of a reminder of that never give up.
Yeah.
It's not over yet.
Yeah.
Keep praying, keep
Yeah, yeah,
fighting.
yeah.
Again, I don't know where you wrote it from,
Yeah.
what place you wrote it from, but that's kind of how what it means to me.
Yeah, I love that. I love hearing it. Man, I've always said that when I would get into interviews with folks that I should turn the interview onto somebody else. So I feel like I got a little bit of that, asking that what that felt like that song means to you. That's cool. So our little sister has a disease called Lyme's disease, and it's a tick-borne illness. I don't know if many people know about it, but it's a very ambiguous disease. You don't really, like, some days are great, you know, and then some days are terrible. And so some days you'll be like, Libby, there's nothing wrong, you know, you're fine. Especially before we knew the diagnosis, it was like, Libby, just kind of get going here. You know, you don't need to be sleeping till 1 PM. And so then some days, perfect. And then other days, she would just sleep all day. And we're like, man, there's something wrong. So we found out it was Lyme's disease. And to be honest, the hard part is this will have a redeeming story. I know it will, because that's what God is in the business of doing. But it's kind of ruined her life in a really hard way. And I think for us as brothers, we found that really hard. She's our youngest sister. And she still got it. She's doing a lot better. But we were like, well, what part can we play? Mm-hmm. And so we thought, well, what if we write a song? What would we say to her if we could write a song? And so that was It's Not Over Yet. To kind of say, this is not the end of your story. You know, there's gonna come a day where this is not just gonna help one other person. It's going to help many other folks get through whatever they're going, because God has given you something that a lot of other people don't have. He's given you perspective. But we need you to beat this. We need you to believe that it's not over yet, that you've got a fantastic story ahead of you. And so that song was a very personal song for us to share with our sister, and for it to be a song that we hear so many people just come and say, hey, I nearly gave up on this. I nearly gave up on this relationship. I nearly did this. To come and say, but because I heard this, I've decided not to. Man, talk about humbling, and what an amazing experience that we get to be on the other end of hearing these stories.
Because it's an anthem to say keep on fighting. It's not an anthem like just sit here and suffer and it's eventually going to be over.
No.
It's not over yet because you're still fighting.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And we sometimes, as a society, everything's so quick. Everything with our phones, even with our medicines for the most part. We take antibiotics if you've got some sort of infection. You're good in a week.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. That's crazy. And 100 years ago, it was like, you got sick, you're out for 2 months.
Chop your leg off.
You've got all very, very severe things. And so we don't really know how to suffer very well. We don't know. In the Bible, it talks about rejoicing when we're suffering. I don't think we do that very well. That's been a challenge to me with some of the things that I've walked through, and I think we need to count it as gain when we suffer for Christ. And sometimes it is suffering with an illness. Sometimes it's suffering in our jobs. Sometimes it's suffering with the families that we feel like we've been given. We can take that and turn that into something remarkable, and then you get to show other people, man, this God that you love, I've seen the hand that you've been dealt, and you rejoice. Man, what an amazing testament.
You've been listening to the More Than the Music podcast, episode 2, featuring Joel and Luke from For King and Country. I'm Justin Paul. To find out more about the show, just go to wayfm.com/Justin.